Today we had the opportunity to sit down with Siddhi Sundar, and she's the former head of product innovation at Netflix Studio. Siddhi has also been in some of the most exclusive rooms in the world when it comes to discussing the implications of AI and what impact this is going to have on our overall economy and just general creative industry. We discussed financial models that creatives can go and use right now to actually leverage AI to go and position themselves to make more money. She's also going to discuss what skills are actually commanding a premium right now so you can go and learn those skills exactly to position yourselves as a top 1% creative. So honestly, sit down, relax, and enjoy this podcast. There is so much value to be had in this one. Today we're joined by Siddhi Sundar, and Siddhi, you've had probably, one of the most impressive career paths that I've seen in my time. And you're now on this amazing journey where you're helping spread, I think I almost want to call it like positive awareness about AI and what we can really do to harness it and bring it into a positive direction. So do you want to give a bit of an intro to yourself and this amazing mission that you're now on?
I'd love to. Thank you, Rourke, and I appreciate you having me here. So I, as a quick background, started as a filmmaker, went to film school, was an assistant director out in Bollywood for a bit because I grew up watching Bollywood movies and really wanted to know what that experience would be like. And then somehow circuitously ended up in tech, right? We all just end up carving life paths where we look back and we're like, how did we end up where we're at right now? And for the past 7.5 years, I was at Netflix, leading a team at the intersection of people building cutting edge technology and creatives all over the world. So by creatives here, I mean filmmakers, editors, VFX artists, marketers, designers, technicians. Really the mission being, how do we help understand really deeply what those creative needs are that unlock the next level of creativity for people all over the world, and to translate that to technology teams really building the tech to help make that happen. And so you can imagine on that journey, there was so much learning, easily the coolest career experience of my life. And at the same time, over the past year or so, I started to have this realization that when we look outside the core entertainment bubbles like LA and New York and Mumbai and the places where many artists are drinking the AI Kool-Aid, is a universe of artists, not just in filmmaking, I'm talking everywhere, right? Think like t-shirt designers, jewelry designers, people who haven't even really thought about how this technology can transform their practice, who are scared, they're anxious, they don't know where to start. And by being in that place, my worry is that in 2 to 3 years, it'll be too late. And so I said, hey, I think the timing is right to take everything I learned in the hallways of big studio and tech land and figure out how to democratize it just to creatives everywhere so they feel empowered and not scared and can own their careers in a more constructive way.
So what does that journey look like? So now you've been out of Netflix for how long?
Earlier this summer, so about 3 months.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
in the last 3 months, how have you found it writing solo?
Geez, it's a combo of every emotion imaginable on a given day, which I'm sure you've been on that journey too, right? I think
Uh-huh.
mostly very exhilarating and exciting. It is awesome to own your own schedule and to really feel like the potential is untapped in terms of what you can do. And also days that are very scary going out on your own without being in a corporate structure where you feel safety and security. And I think all of the things that corporate America is really good at. So I think it's been all those things. And I'm open to any advice you have, Rourke, on how you overcame that hump and just dove all in.
Okay, we need to exchange proper advice here because I'm looking for advice to how to grow, and you're looking for advice on how to be like this solo legend.
Right.
So I think there's loads of stuff that we can chat about, and I think we kind of, before we had started this, we had a quick intro call where we came up with a few key points that we think you guys are going to really benefit from today's session. We've got those kind of jotted down here. Then we're going to make sure that we hit all of them on the head for you as we go through this podcast together. And one of the things that we wanted to discuss was the wildest questions that you've gotten from art creatives, school students, that reveal how broken the creative education system is around AI. So
Yeah, it is wild, Rourke.
Mm.
And actually probably one of the biggest sparks that made me want to go down this path instead of just going and working for one of the AI companies So over the past several years, many art school students, animators, filmmakers, writers will ping me on LinkedIn. And the question is usually, how do I get a job at a
Mm,
company like Netflix? And I don't always have the capacity to respond, but I try because I've been there and I've had to
hmm
reinvent myself. And so in any way I can give back, I try. The last 6 months have been some of the most eye-opening questions to me that I think reinforces the importance of the work that you're doing and that everybody is doing around creative
hmm
AI education. So probably one of my favorite examples is there was an animation student who pinged me on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I just want some career advice." And I spoke to her and I just asked her, "Hey, look, animation is actually one of those areas that's the most prime for AI innovation. You look at backgrounds, you look at characters, you look at voice, and it's one of those places where consumers are able to accept AI generated content even more just by nature of the
mm,
genre."
hmm
And her response to me was, "I don't believe in AI. And my school told me a month ago, so this was back in June, so in May, not to pick up any AI tool or learn it because the unions are going to come and save us."
It's
Okay.
just unfathomable. It's unfathomable.
So this is someone who spent and went into debt for it, like
Mm,
200,000 US dollars
hmm
to get a degree at a top animation school. And the
Wow.
people at the schools are telling them not to pick up AI tools because the unions are going to come. Like there's so much misinformation that's
hmm
just a part of that. And like very analogous stories of folks being like, "Can you help me figure out how to get a job, but not mention AI? Can you help me figure out how to
mm,
reinvent myself, but without using the tools?" And it's like this immediate instinctual reaction towards this thing is horrible and bad, which I understand because it's been very
mm.
poorly explained. Um, but
What do
yeah,
you tell
you'd
those
be
people? What do you tell those people who are saying like, how do I basically, you know, advertise myself in like a non-AI sense and go more the traditional route? Do you tell them actually you could package yourself with AI but do it in a nice way, or like what's the go around?
Yeah, I mean, what I first try to do is to understand where the fear is stemming from, right?
Hmm
Because for a lot of people, it's just like AI is like big bad monster, and when you get underneath the surface with people, it's not as scary as it seems. So a lot of it is first understanding like what is scaring you? Is
hmm
it job loss and displacement? Is it feeling like your human touch is going to go missing in the machine? Is it being worried about preserving your craft? And for everybody, it's a little bit different. For some, it's just like, me and my friends are all going to lose our jobs. And this is the death of creativity, which I fundamentally don't agree with.
hmm
There's people who just believe, look, I don't know how to work with these tools and preserve my human authenticity and creativity. If I'm using a machine to generate work, well, what does that mean for human creativity as a practice? So those conversations look very different. What I tell people all the time is the tools are commoditized and creativity is the ultimate moat. The reason we see so much AI slop on the internet is because it's people who aren't creatives and who aren't artistically brilliant using
hmm
tools to flood the internet with garbage. And that
Right.
will continue to happen. But
hmm
much like the rest of creative history, the arbiter of whether or not something is good is whether consumers love it and how
hmm
strong a vision you have. And when you start unpeeling those layers and realize that like it's really you directing the tools, it's not the tools doing the work for you, I think people start, depending on where they're at, to open their
Mm.
minds up a little bit more.
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to touch on that because I feel like if you gave the entire population a pencil, right, maybe 20% of them would be able to draw, maybe debatably less, would it be actually be able to draw well, right? To a point where you'd be like, you have like a career ahead of you with this pencil, okay? And I think that now, if you were to give like, that's what we're seeing. We were seeing that 80% of people who are like picking up this tool, they're like hitting a few buttons and posting it. And that is what is creating AI slop. It's people who maybe fall into that 80% category who haven't got that artistic background or those skills, but they're creating these things, which to them, they deem artistic because it's, it's new for them and they had an idea in their head and they brought it to life. But I think for me, it's like, that 20% of people who can really harness these tools, I feel like we're
Yep,
barely even tapping into those people right now,
1000%.
because a lot of them exist in traditional media, and they've been using these, they've got experience in the field for like 10, 20 plus years, but they're too scared to adopt these tools right now.
Yeah,
So
1000%.
how do we go about like large scale adoption of these tools?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think maybe it's reframing that. I think the goal is
Mm,
less large frame adoption of the tools and more how do you help creatives reduce the barriers to getting their art made? And I think
hmm
if you frame it from that lens of what are the things that are stopping you today in a few different categories, right? Making money with your creativity, like monetizing your art.
hmm
Number 2, finding the right audience for it. Number 3, getting the crazy ideas that could only live in your head because you were blocked by budget constraints or traditional studio gatekeepers or distribution models that, fundamentally kept you out. If we frame it from the lens of this is a way to get your ideas access to the world and the world access to your ideas, the only way that happens is through the tools, right? Like I think
mm,
that's where the future is headed. So I found
hmm
that language to work. I also think large scale adoption of the tools, the creative partner programs that a lot of these AI companies are running. I think it's an amazing, amazing way to help people who are already invested and somewhat drinking the Kool-Aid, a more cost-effective way to make great content. I think the
hmm
challenge with them is that a lot of the feedback, and I've talked to people who run these, that comes in from the programs are again from the 1% of people like you and me who
hmm
know the tools and use the tools and understand the tools, giving feedback back to the
hmm
AI providers. And what we
hmm
don't get to there is some of these AI companies have the dream of being the Adobe Creative Cloud of the future. Well, to get to 30 million creative people around the world, you have to figure out how to message and pitch that product to everyday people who can see the
hmm
way that it applies to their life. And I'm not quite sure a lot of, especially image and video generation companies are quite there yet. That's my hot take.
Also, by the way, if you're interested in taking creative Gen AI seriously, then we set up Gen HQ, which is a creative AI education platform that gives you all of the skills that you need to become a professional in the creative AI industry. We'll teach you how to execute on client work, find client work, and build your portfolio so that you can become independent or you can get a job working directly in the creative AI industry. There is a $97 investment to join Gen HQ, but inside of that community, we paid creatives $1,000 an hour for their time to come and give you direct information so that you can learn from the top 1% in the industry so that you can learn and grow as quickly as possible. We have interviews with industry experts who teach you all of the best skills in creative AI, and we've also got modules on all of the top creative AI tools. And whenever there's updates to any of these new tools, we'll go in and make an update video for you so you're learning all of the most relevant up-to-date information. You can check the first link in the description if you're interested in joining. Okay, interesting. So do you think that these image and video, because I'm with you that like a lot of these image and video generation tools, we do some creative consulting for these tools, and we try
Yeah.
and do user testing and provide feedback so that they can improve them and things like this. Do you think that they need to be targeting your average Joes then, your average people who maybe have never picked up an AI tool before, or like what do they need to be doing different to help bring more people in? Because you're right, asking like the 1% for feedback will give you a very finite resource of knowledge, but also couldn't you argue that the people who are those top 1% adopters would have like the richest knowledge and feedback for these companies as well?
Yeah. I mean, you're getting at the 101 heart of product development and where you get your
Mm,
insights from, right? So absolutely, you often learn a ton from your power users, and they're the people who bring the most richness and detail. And I think that
mm,
is amazing for technical development of the product, right?
mm,
Which these companies have to
mhm,
have. When it comes to wide scale adoption, which every company needs to survive
mhm,
financially, you don't get there with just the top 1%. So, like, if you think
mhm,
about Runway Aleph as an example,
mhm,
yeah, like a great way to, I think, reach your masses. Who are the people who are just using After Effects today and have never used anything but After Effects to make content? And what are the things that Runway offers that Runway believes is meaningfully better than what can be done in After Effects today? And then who are the people who are using those feature sets? Runway, I'm sure, has access to data or can buy data on some of those
mhm,
use cases. And then to target, like, well, these are the people who are actually perfect because they already have the knowledge and are using the tools in this way, which make them ideal as a target
Mm-hmm.
audience for us.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not there yet. So how do
Mm-hmm.
we help understand and demystify that it's actually not that, it's not that scary and it's not that different? And I think that's like getting to more of those. It's really like for the companies to survive too, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's a competitive market out there.
It is a competitive market, and I'd love to know like where we're at right now, right on the 22nd of September, 2025.
Yeah.
Like where, if we look at like a ratio of people who are creatives who are not adopting AI versus now where we are as a snapshot, where do you think roughly we're at? Because I would love to know in terms of people who are adopting AI and people who are not yet adopting AI. Are we still like in the early days of adoption? Or is that early days kind of coming to an end now? Where do you think we're at?
Yeah, I think it's still very, very early days. And I think the reason why people don't feel that way is because our socials are
Hmm.
filled with people who are all in. Like
Hmm.
they're all in, they're posting about it every day. I think the ratio still is like 1,000 to 1 right
Wow.
now. If you look at the size of the creative community, and again, over here, I don't just mean video and
Hmm.
photo, I mean anybody who is doing creative work that would benefit from using any of these tools for conceptualization, storyboarding, visualization, like t-shirt designers, right? T-shirt designers don't
Hmm.
fall in the category of people who you would think would be using AI tools, or fashion designers. And some dude last month used Midjourney to create 100 variations of t-shirt SKUs and ended up making 20K a month instead of making $1,000 a month before, right? So the economics are just wild,
Yeah.
and we haven't even scraped the surface globally. That's my take.
That's an interesting use case. I was literally in the shops yesterday, in Portugal with my wife, and I was just saying, like, I was flicking through all of these like t-shirts made by Quicksilver, and I
Yeah,
was like, these are cool, but like there's like 5 different t-shirts that all have the same print and they're all there in a different size, right? So when you're scanning through, you see the same t-shirt, right, over and over. And I was there thinking to myself, if I was to have my own clothing line, I would be creating bespoke one of one pieces because it's just so easy nowadays. You know,
yep, there you go.
there's no excuse to just print like one print. And obviously, it's cheaper to do that on a mass production scale. But like, I feel like the opportunities that we now have access to us with AI to create more personalized content is incredible. And that personalization that you get in terms of being able to create quicker, create faster, and create more ideas is for some people very new and very foreign. And a lot of people are like, I like to, have like really crafted my ideas and spend a lot of time like perfecting them. But I think like now with AI, it just speeds up our production and it allows us to create so much more. And I'm curious to know, how do you feel as somebody who's been in some of like, probably some of the most interesting conversations in the creative scene? Like, how do you feel that like obviously scale is going to increase in terms of the volumetric size of what we can output,
Yeah.
but quality, like, a lot of people struggle with quality with AI. So how do you feel that relationship is going to grow over time?
Yeah, it's such a good question and is always on my mind. Stanford's business school did a study earlier this year trying to get at this exact question, where they looked at creative marketplaces and they tried to look at over time since the advent of AI, as these marketplaces have been getting flooded with more AI content, what has the impact been on quality, um, economic potential and viability for creatives, and like diversity of items? And all three of them went up. And my mind was blown that as volume increases in the marketplace, in aggregate quality has also increased. Because I would think, well, early on, if it's just a volume play, to your point, like you're not going to be able to sit there and perfectly craft and invest your creative vision into every piece that you make. But in aggregate, the more things that there are in the market, the higher the quality is, as defined
Hmm.
by consumers of that creative content, right? Which I think is that's wild. And it was a similar
Mm.
thing. There was a art marketplace in China that looked at, hey, what happens once AI comes into the market before and after? And it was literally the same thing, where consumer perceptions of the quality of the stuff that they were getting was higher than ever before, which raises the question for me of like, maybe this is more nuanced than just you can make a lot more stuff. It's
Hmm.
you can make a lot more stuff at above average quality compared to
Hmm.
before.
Hmm.
But I don't know, man. I'm still wrestling with all of it because, like at Netflix, we had a scale. AI becomes a really compelling vehicle because of scale. You're
Hmm.
producing 1,000 TV shows in 200 different places, right? How do you think about the scale of that challenge? AI becomes a really interesting lever. For your average studio making 10 or 20 TV shows or movies a year, I don't think it's a scale play. I think I mean, it could be a scale play. It's how do you get wild, creative ideas on screen that were never there before? But
Mm. I got a couple
what's
of
your
questions.
take?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think that like as we can create more content, obviously there's like the theory of like dead internet theory where there's just so much content online that it's like impossible for us to digest all of this stuff that's constantly being published. I think there's a stat that's like something like 82 years worth of footage uploaded to YouTube every day or something absurd like that. And like obviously you cannot consume just the amount of content that's being uploaded in a single day on these social media platforms in your entire lifetime. And I think that like for me it's like, okay, if that is the situation that we've got right now and that is the situation that exists pre AI, now you insert AI into that, there's going to be a crazy influx of content coming out, and also better quality content, as you said,
Right.
coming out. So this difficulty for creators and creatives to cut through the noise is going to become more and more difficult, I think. And I think
Yeah,
that the creatives who have like a really good understanding of human psychology and have a good understanding of what sets you apart from your either people who are in your like your competitive niche or just in your general area, I feel like people are going to need to learn how to cut through the noise much quicker, which
for
means that you
sure.
can't get comfortable in your own lane anymore. You have to be pushing the boundaries. You have to be testing different formats, and you need to adapt, and you need to adapt much quicker. And you know, as creatives, we often like fall into a medium that we're happy with and we get very comfortable. But and I think that that's fine and that will still exist. But if you want to become like a hybrid creator where you're using AI, you're going to have to try and stand out from the crowd. And in order to do that, you need to be consuming a lot of content to
Yep.
understand what is that bar of average content and what is that
Hmm.
bar of high quality content, and then figuring out how you can sit and position yourself in that top 1% category where you are cutting through the noise every time. And that's what
Yeah.
we try and do. It's very difficult in the education space to be interesting, but if you can keep it fun and refreshing, then you know, I think that you'll set yourself apart, and that comes from a lot of repetitions. And obviously, like companies like Netflix have that. You know, you guys have produced thousands of shows. Like you've done the repetitions to know what constitutes as a good show versus a bad show, and I think that that is only just going to be like accelerated
Yeah.
as time goes on. And having that understanding of what's good and what's bad will be really important. So I think consumption needs to increase from users too.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I mean, to your credit, I tell people I work with, you're the first person I refer them to. I'm like, you have managed to keep what, 18 months of tool tutorials and updates entertaining and fun and
Hmm.
visually exciting. And I'm like, oh, every morning I go and I
Hmm.
check and I watch it. So kudos to you. It's not an easy thing to do in the
Thank
space that
you.
you're in.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I feel very lucky that in the AI space, there's obviously a lot happening all the time. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's like being a news reporter as such in this space is so interesting. It's so fast paced and it's so intense that like you don't really have a choice but to create content. So it kind of
Yeah.
it forces you to continue to do those repetitions and get the output out there. And a lot of people who are in this community are what I love to see is that they are now also setting themselves these standards where they're saying, I'm going to create at least one spec advert a week. I'm going to be posting 7 times a day on LinkedIn with some sort of AI content. 7 times a week on LinkedIn with like some kind of AI content.
Yeah.
And I think like setting those expectations is really healthy for this kind of stuff because there's so much to learn as a creative. Like you're learning and then you're also creating, and like that relationship that you have is I feel like something that's not so common, because if you think about traditional, maybe you would learn a tool like Adobe After
Yeah.
Effects, right? You can spend years learning that software and you can still be learning something new every day, but eventually you do kind of get to a point where you kind of your progress plateaus in terms of your creativity and reaching a new level. But because AI is constantly evolving, you cannot sit at this one level because the new tool comes out and then you are constantly reaching like new highs and new levels. So how do you feel about that relationship between education and actually doing creative work itself?
Yeah, I think it has to be both, right? I love, and I know many creators, the Mr. Beast philosophy is you have to find a way to make everything you do make one thing better, right?
Right.
So if you're learning something new, if you're learning about the new Higgs field plugin, or if you're using Nano Banana in Photoshop, watch the video and then use it, like
Hmm.
mentally commit to I am going
Hmm.
to use this to try to make one thing better about the next creative project that I'm working on. And then
Hmm.
education stacks, right? I think using these skills stacks over time. So if you can tell yourself every time I open a piece of software or every time I take on a new project, I'm going to try to use that past skill, not just for the sake of it, but really to make my output better. I
Hmm.
mean, that's how the education, that's how it translates. I do, though, and I hear this from a lot of people, it's overwhelming. It is
Hmm.
a lot to
Hmm.
stay on top of. People don't know where to begin. They don't know what tools to use. They don't understand like the longevity of any of these tools and like if any of them are going to be around in 5 years, which the answer is outside of Google. I don't know,
Hmm.
right? Like it's
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
it's it's
Hmm.
it's a scary land. It's becoming very, very commoditized, and I think we'll see consolidation. But don't try to learn all of it. Don't try
Hmm.
to master 15 different tools. Like find the few that work really, really well for your specific creative practice, and it helps elevate you instead of trying to become a jack of all trades. At least that's my
Hmm.
perspective right now. Or
Hmm.
you'll be endlessly caught in the learning loop without actually making anything.
Hmm. That's interesting. Um, we have like a similar but also dissimilar philosophy, because
Yeah.
I think that like being a jack of all trades is, in my opinion, I think it's one of the most valuable things that you can do in AI right now. Because if you like were to hone yourself down into, I'll use like a company called Hedra as an
Yeah,
example,
of
right? Who
course.
were a lip syncing model and they
Hmm.
were front of field at like, we're talking maybe like 4 months ago now. And they were just like, they were great. I think they got like investment from a few big people. I don't know if Mark Cuban invested, but they got like a bunch of big investors involved. And then Google VO3 came out, and
Hmm.
like their avatar model kind of like just lost its value. And then like other models started coming out from
Yeah.
companies like ByteDance. And like if you specialize and you focus on just being a pro in a few different tools, you can run into that risk of it becoming outdated. So we say have a general understanding
Yeah.
of the entire marketplace, and then you can like obviously there'll be tools like Google which will release a new model like Nano Banana, which
Right.
will hold for like 2 to 3 months, and that is great because obviously you want to be able to use a tool consistently. But what do you think on that as well?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so to clarify, right, I actually am more aligned with you than maybe I originally described with my lack of coffee this morning. So I agree. I do think that being a jack of all trades and having general awareness of the landscape is a massive strength. I don't think that there are a lot of people who have that, which is why like everyone sign up for Gen HQ because it'll give you those foundations. By that I just mean I just see people paralyzed by believing that they need to learn all 8 to 10 video generation
Right,
tools in order to
right.
be competitive in the
Hmm.
marketplace. And I think on that front, my philosophy is also like this is where creatives need to up level a little bit, just in terms of just business
Hmm.
knowledge of these companies. Let's take
Mm.
Midjourney as an example. Okay. People love Midjourney. I love Midjourney. I use
Hmm.
Midjourney all the time. Never build your business or practice around a tool or a company that may not have durability 3 to 5 years from now. So you look at Midjourney, like, do I think they'll be around? Like, personally, yes. They're also mired in so many lawsuits where people are like, you have willfully and deliberately stolen our IP.
Hmm.
Can they fight it? Sure. Will they
Hmm.
win? I don't know. The landscape
Hmm.
keeps changing all the time. So I think it's just like, uh, be be thoughtful, and yes, like build your portfolio of tools, but build a selective portfolio of tools that have durability. With Google, the reason why I think even if Nano Banana or VO3 won't be the best model on the market in 3 months, I think where Google will win is Google has the data.
Hmm.
Okay. Google owns the models.
Hmm.
Google owns the distribution with YouTube, and
Hmm.
Google now has the creator tooling with Flow. How many companies that can you think of that have those four things? Their like upside for
Hmm.
the next decade, I think, is boundless. Does that mean that they'll be the best video generation tool on the market? No, I think every month there's a new best video
Hmm.
generation tool, but I do think that you can probably whittle the list down to what is the most durable.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's a super solid take, and I think that there is a lot to take away from that. So we kind of touched on creative partner programs. Now, for a lot of people, creative partner programs aren't widely accessible because they kind of restrict them to either creators or
Yeah.
artists in the industry. If someone with like a low budget and they wanted to start getting into AI today, how do you think there's like an effective way that people can go out and start doing that? Unfortunately, that's all we have time for here on YouTube, but if you want to watch the rest of this video and learn more about creative AI, then you can click the first link in the description and come and join Gen HQ. If you're interested in taking creative Gen AI seriously and turning this into a professional career, then you can come and join us over at Gen HQ.